Boom.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and neighbors of all shapes and sizes, whoever you are, wherever you're from, welcome, one and all, to the first episode of No More Heroes. Um, I am in a state of awe right now. I'm honored to be here with my good friend, Mr. Justin Williams. Um,
Mm,
we are excited
yes.
because as a couple of lifelong nerds, we uh, we never pass up a chance to share our nerdiness with everyone around us. So
Absolutely.
we're excited to be here. Justin, how are you doing, my friend?
Great. It's fantastic. Here in Anchorage, Alaska, where the snow is finally melting. Finally, after 7 long, hard, post-apocalyptic, desolate years. The snow is finally melting. Spring is finally coming. The horizon looks beautiful. There is hope. There is restoration, and there is an endless, endless amount of nerd, fandom, geek, pop culture yumminess to ingest. Um, and we're only really just talking about one thing, but there's so many things on the outer circle, right? Of what we really came here to talk about, which is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There is so much, and there will be so much. I don't know if it's just this year or just these past couple of months, like post Wonder Woman 84. Like, is it just January, February, March? That's a really good quarter, or is it like just the year where we're just constantly just getting good stuff, bro? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been
I don't
wild,
know.
especially like I think I double checked the other day. Marvel is giving us 4 shows and 4 movies, from what I can tell,
For this year?
for this year. Because we got WandaVision, we're doing Falcon and
Yes.
Winter Soldier.
See,
Loki is coming in June,
June.
and I
What's the
believe
fourth one?
I believe Hawkeye is supposed to hit before the end of the year.
What?
Yeah, from what I've heard, I haven't seen an official announcement. There's no posters or any like trailers or anything out yet, but
Uh,
it's as far as I know, it's supposed to hit before the end of the year. I could be wrong. Um,
I
and then of
hope you're
course
right.
on the film front, Black Widow, Shang Chi.
Right.
Who else?
Is Shang-Chi coming out this year?
Yeah, September.
Holy moly.
Uh, who else? Spider Man's coming out.
Spider-Man's supposed to be coming out. I have a really weird feeling that one's going to be delayed. I
Maybe.
don't
I
know
mean,
why.
it's
I don't
it's
know
it's
why.
in
There's no reason to feel
Christmas.
that way.
Does
Yeah.
What If drop this year? I'm gonna have to double check on that. I'm coming into the conversation not fully informed, but if that is the case,
Uh,
yeah.
I think What If is being dropped this year, which is fun.
In the chat, by the way, welcome to the chat, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Let's keep that conversation going off to the side. Feel free to interact with us. Ryan Dole is saying Hawkeye is at the end of the year. So,
Oh,
and then obviously we got the Eternals coming up as well.
and we
So
have the mother effing Eternals.
we're
Holy
we're
kabooski.
eating good.
Man,
It's crazy. We're living in a, I don't even know if we can say it's the golden age anymore. I mean, I feel like the first phase of Marvel was the golden age.
that was the golden
We're
age.
in the
This is a
silver
platinum
age
age.
now.
Silver.
Spider-Man
Yo,
3,
it's something.
Spider-Man No Way Home wrapped filming today.
Today.
Yeah.
Oh man, congrats to Marvel
Yeah.
and Sony because they're both making that money.
Yeah. And then
Um,
also not to, ignore the DC end of things. All the CW shows are still going strong. Superman and Lois is fantastic. They're on a break right now because they had to, maneuver around a positive COVID test when they were filming. But as far
right.
as I know, they've picked back up with filming, and they're on a delay until May. So you might hear us talk a little bit more about that show
Right.
on our show, and yeah, and also the Snyder cut of Justice League just came out. We might
Holy
chop that one up
moly.
a little bit ourselves. I know we just chopped it up on the main Yes Have Some show yesterday.
Right. Right.
So yeah, and of course, earlier today, courtesy of Mr. James Gunn, we got our first look at The Suicide Squad. So, what'd you think of that trailer, my friend?
I think that well, first of all, I just want to say this is the Margot Robbie show. Okay. I'm very, very excited. She is basically, first of all, she's amazing, right? She stole the show in David Ayer's Suicide Squad. They made a Birds of Prey film that was 20% about the Birds of Prey and 80% about Harley Quinn. Like, let's not get it twisted. That was a Harley Quinn movie featuring everyone else.
Right.
And Margot Robbie now has top billing for the casting in this movie. So, because she is Harley freaking Quinn. So I'm super, super excited about that. Just noticing that. I'm very, very excited that this isn't a complete remake or do-over, because we get to see the return of at least 4 cast members from the previous film. Joe Kinnaman, Viola Davis, Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, and of course Margot Robbie. And I think everyone else is new. Idris Elba, Nathan Fillion, John Cena. So this... Oh, and Sylvester Stallone as King Shark.
Right. That was I'm excited. When I first watched it, I'm not gonna lie, I think I was still feeling a little burnt out on DC. Just
really?
From all of the, not burnt out on DC, but just like I needed to refresh myself post Snyder Cut, because that's kind of the end of an era. From what DC has said recently, it's very much like, hey, it's done. The Snyder Cut is out. We are looking forward to new things, different things. They just greenlit a Zatanna movie. They just cast Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate for the Black Adam movie. And of course, that's going to be featuring the Justice Society. So I think I was feeling just a little like, let me breathe. So when I first watched it this morning, I was a little like, okay, yeah, that's a thing that exists now. And I'm not gonna lie, I took another look at it shortly before we went live here, and I'm definitely feeling it a little bit more. I kind of had some time to cleanse my palate. I went back and watched a little bit more of not watched a little bit more, but recapped. Falcon and Winter Soldier for myself, and then I took another look at it, and I'm very excited. There's a lot of really good humor that hits in there really well.
Oh yeah.
I love how it treats it as super serious. There's a little bit of humor, but they treat it as a super serious, like, oh, we're here, we got to rescue Harley Quinn, blah blah blah. And then right before they do, she's just like, what do you guys do? Like, she's already
right.
And the fact that it ends with them teasing Starro, like, that's I mean, like, for nerds, like, a lot of people know, like, that's one of the very first villains that the Justice League faced. But for anybody else watching this, just like, why is there a giant starfish? You don't even know. You're not ready.
He said it's a giant kaiju.
It's a kaiju.
Oh man.
In the chat, Mr. Riley Bob says, I worry we're teasing superhero oversaturation, the sewer side, because it's the Ninja Turtle crossover. The Suicide Squad trailer dropped today. Hit him as just kind of meh. Okay. How do you feel about that? What do you think about the topic of oversaturation with comic book and superhero movies?
I'll tell you what, bro. These are my thoughts on it, and I'll try to keep this a little short because, man, we could have an entire podcast just on this topic alone.
Facts.
Yeah, dude. Oversaturation is a crazy thing. We think of that. I think of all sorts of things. Even the idea of podcasting in of itself is an oversaturated market. When I think of cinema,
what are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
Who let this happen?
But it's so true, you know what I mean? And so when we think of just cinema, right, especially in regards to how COVID-19 has completely changed the paradigm shift of entertainment and what we see, what we're exposed to, ease of access, restricted access to other things, early access to, whatever. Superhero movies are blockbusters. And I feel like Hollywood now kind of has a tendency and incentive to really, really focus on blockbusters because they know that those are the money makers, right? And we also live in an era too, and I will say this, thanks to Blade from 98, X-Men from 2000, and Spider-Man from 2002, now we live in an era where it is normal, right? We have the special effects, we have the CG, we have the technology, right?
We can make it better.
We can make it better. We can make it stronger. To, finally have these gorgeous versions of all these superheroes that you and I grew up with, right?
That our parents and grandparents grew up with.
If we're being honest, a lot of these guys debuted in the 60s and 70s, And so, yeah, absolutely. They couldn't do what we do now back then, but they could do it now. So my thing is with this whole idea that superhero films are it's like an oversaturated market. I agree. It is. By the time Endgame came out, I was exhausted with Marvel. I wasn't sick of it or like just totally through, but I could care less about Spider-Man Far From Home. Like I just walked out of the theater
and you love Spider-Man.
And I loved it. That's my favorite superhero. But by the time Endgame was done, dude, I was like, it's over. They finished it. They wrapped it up. I waited 10 years just to hear Cap say Avengers Assemble and for Thanos to just whoosh away. And they did it successfully, beautifully. I don't need another MCU movie ever. Of course, I went to go see Spider-Man 2, and it was fine, right? It was good. And then we got 2020 where we didn't have anything at all. We had a whole 12 months plus of no Marvel shows, no Marvel movies. And it was exactly the rest that I needed to prepare for WandaVision and for Falcon and Winter Soldier. So oversaturation is a real thing. But you have to know when to take breaks.
Yeah. And I think, if anything, even though it might not have necessarily been something that they planned, and obviously, like, nobody planned for 2020. Like we were talking about in our audio little pilot episode. Yeah. Nobody needed 2020. But I think that if there is one thing that maybe could be taken away as a lesson learned, without having to necessarily feel the consequences of it, having been something that they tried and didn't work out. Having that break, I think, gave everybody the rest they needed after Endgame. Yeah. And also got it, it was enough time to tease some things, announce some things. Because I remember, and you've said it too, when they first talked about phase 4 and what would be coming next, and they had that big press conference where they announced, we're gonna have this and all these TV shows and Doctor Strange 2, and we're making a Blade movie too. And don't worry, even though we didn't announce it, I'm still thinking about Fantastic Four and X-Men. Right. And it was a lot, especially because we were still coming off of Endgame. Yeah. And so to have that break, I don't know if they will specifically take off a whole another year the way they did this past year, but I do think they will have that in mind, when we get to the end of phase 4, to be like, all right, let's give it a minute. Right. Let's not just launch into the next movie. Because right now, I mean, this is a breakneck pace this year. Absolutely. But I think they're revving the engine. They're getting us rolling again.
And that's okay. That's okay. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Black Widow supposed to be released last year? Yeah. So thank God for COVID. Because I swear to God. That's probably
the one...
Yeah.
That's probably the one movie I think... I mean, in general, we could have used a Black Widow movie a while ago. But I will say this, and we'll talk about it a little more once we get into Falcon and Winter Soldier. But I think there is some strategy at play with the MCU. We're really excited. We're here to talk to you this week and over the next few weeks about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We kicked off phase 4 with WandaVision. And, real quick because I want to address this. Yes. Ryan Dole says, who do you think the real end boss of Suicide Squad is? Ryan, I'm telling you right now, it's Mephisto. All right. So, talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier. We kicked phase 4 off with WandaVision, which... if you can't tell, the name of the show, More Heroes, is a little poke and jab at the the fans, which many of which are friends of mine. I consider everybody a colleague, but we got real wild with the speculation.
Woo.
We got really wild.
Yeah.
And obviously, everybody thought mutants were going to show up. It's obviously an iconic moment in the House of M comic when she says no more mutants and wipes out the mutant population. And wow, she just wiped my mind. She wipes out the mutant population, and then people thought, oh, in the show she's going to say no, comma, more mutants, and that will be what introduces mutants into the MCU. That didn't happen, but we thought if we're going to be on here doing our part to fuel the fire and speculate. Oh, Andrew Bayless is out. He hasn't watched any of Falcon and Winter Soldier yet. Do it. You will not regret it. You're only 2 episodes behind. Do it now. Leave and go watch the show. Get out of here. So the name is a play on that. We're going to be in here speculating, fueling the fire, getting everybody amped up, hopefully. So, it's the least we can do is poke fun at ourselves as fans and how crazy we can get. But that's the thing. While we're here, this is a safe space to freak out and speculate and wonder what's going to happen. But hopefully we'll all get a little bit better at leaving that at the door when we sit down to watch the show and just let it be what it is. Because this show is serving some excellence, some black excellence to be specifically, but excellence on all fronts to be specifically.
Come on now.
My mom taught me English.
Hey.
So let's kick it off. Let's talk about some stuff, and we'll move into our first segment. Roll. You see that? You see how the little thing moved? Yo, what I didn't tell you guys is that me and Justin pulled our pennies together, and since Tony's kind of they are liquidating a lot of Stark tech from all of the factory outlets. So we pulled our pennies together and bought the cheapest Stark artificial intelligence we could. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't have a name, but it is the reason we have a show tonight. Give it a round of applause.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Damage Control. Thank you, thank you, Thanos.
Thank you, Thanos.
You didn't mean for this to happen, but as a consequence of your actions, sir, now this. So thank you very much.
It's crazy how the world works, man.
It's beautiful.
But yeah. Oh, wow. You shrunk. I don't know what happened.
I shrank?
Hold on. What's
Pim
happening?
particles? Oh, no.
The Pim part. Oh, no. There you go.
Okay. I'm Giant Man again.
I'm telling. Is this bootleg Stark tech, man? I don't know what to tell you.
It's bad, man.
It's holding us. We're holding it together. This show was built in a cave with a box of scraps. Oh man.
Oh my gosh. That was a good reference, by the way, bro. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was good.
I do my best. So roll call. Who we got in this show, Justin? We got Mr. Sam Wilson, the Falcon, looking good in a new suit.
Tell you what, bro. Beautiful.
It's nice.
It's sexy. I want to marry that suit. The thing that I like about that suit is that it's not as high tech as it was in the movies, right? Like he kind of went to like janky, just backpack and stuff to this like Stark tech like
it's a
outfit.
super suit.
Suit.
It's no longer a piece of military equipment.
Right.
You can obviously still see the roots of like, oh, this is an evolution of where we first saw him. The same way the suit that he wore, he started out wearing basically just what he wore when he was active duty Air Force.
Right.
In Captain America 2. Yeah. Then he evolved into something a little bit more superhero-y, brought some more color to it. Right. Had that red in there.
The red, the glasses.
Yeah. This feels like a super suit. Like this feels like he is all superhero now. And I love that.
This is it. The colors, everything is that all the extra white, and it feels more like, more like the spandexy kind of comic booky Falcon kind of, you know what I mean? But it's not all that. It's like a homage to that. And so I'm very impressed with his suit. I love that Red Wing is spoken of so much more instead of just like mentioned offhandedly like he was in Civil
Yeah,
War.
because in the comics he's an
It's a
actual
deeper.
bird.
He's an actual
So
bird and he has like a psychic link to it.
So it's nice here to see that they kind of did with Red Wing what they did with Jarvis. Instead of it being a real butler, instead of this being a real bird, it's this technological thing that he is linked to, and I thought that was really cool.
It was very neat.
Who else we got in here? We got Bucky.
Buck.
Mr. James Buchanan Barnes. He is
effing Winter Soldier.
He's going through it. He's dealing with it. He's
he's really going through it.
This
poor guy.
Visually, he got a little bit of a haircut. He cleaned up a little bit, but he's still rocking that scruff because he is. I'm not gonna lie, he's a handsome man. He's
a gorgeous man. If he asked me to marry him, I would say, let me ask my wife and let me see what she says. I'd consider it for a minute.
It's very modern of you.
Thank you, sir. I'm trying to be progressive. He's a good looking guy, dude. I love that he's still rocking the white wolf Wakandan arm, right? They're very much humanizing these two characters. One of the first things we see is Bucky in therapy. He's not the terrorist anymore. He's not the Hydra agent brainwashed by Lord knows who. He's not fighting alongside the Avengers. But he's also not resting in Wakanda anymore. He's like right in the middle, living this life full of nightmares, haunted by them. I feel bad.
He wears it. Even, obviously, like he doesn't look like he's been beat up or anything, but you can see this is a man who he's wearing every year that he has lived, and that's rough.
And he's lived way too long, and he wasn't he was active pretty much the entire time that Steve was on ice.
Yeah, they woke him up, put him under, woke him up, put him under, but like yeah. Oh man,
Hydra did him dirty, man. Oh jeez.
Who else we got in here? I feel like if we just jump into talking about who's in it, it's we're gonna end up spoiling some stuff. I'm gonna have to rework the AI, have a conversation with it digitally, and tell it we need to reorder the show, because I'm realizing that if we just talk about who's in the show, we're going to spoil the goodness of it. So let's go ahead and get another transition, courtesy the Bootleg Stark Tech, into the sit rep, and we will break down what happened during the first 2 episodes.
All right.
Hey, look, it worked! I think, man, pennies well spent, my friend. We did it. I
tell you what, we didn't even have to rob a bank. I literally just scraped pennies from my
We had rob a bank on the list. We didn't get there. I'm proud of us. We are still good citizens.
We don't have to now. Yes, they're not going to toss us in the raft.
Oh my goodness.
So, I'm thrilled.
So let's talk about what happened in these episodes. First of all, we kick it off with this moment of, you see Sam, he's getting his clothes ironed, he's putting his stuff together, and he's packing up the shield, he's looking sharp. The first thing that popped into my mind was, is he going to Steve's funeral? Like, are we kicking this off with, I just finished WandaVision. Why are you going to do this to me, Marvel? I was not ready.
Right.
I was coming here for the buddy cop, and you got to hit me with this. But and then you hear the voiceover from Steve at the end of Endgame when he's talking about, this is Sam tells him this feels like somebody else's, and then Steve says it's not. And then we get the title. So we don't know what the situation is yet, but we jump right into the first big action scene. What'd you think of that scene, Justin?
Dude, one thing that's and WandaVision it was like impressed me with this as well. But that first scene, it didn't feel like a Disney TV show. It felt like a film, right? It felt like a theatrical experience. It was amazing seeing the Falcon in action like that, seeing what he does, how he does, who he was fighting. Okay. Which was fantastic. And let me just say, the camera work, not just for that action scene, but from the opening moments of him just ironing his shirt, it felt like the Russo brothers. Yeah. It felt like Captain America 2, which is my favorite movie out of all 23. It felt like home, right? So it not only are we contextually in this familiar world, but even the camera work, which is a part of this world, is present. You know what I mean? So they did a fantastic job at mimicking that. But that action scene was spectacular. There was such a huge rush. Seeing Falcon do his Falcon-y thing, seeing that his equipment can break down and it can malfunction. He would not accept that if that was
no. I would never say that to his face. I'm sorry.
He would probably throw you off a cliff or something. But no, that action sequence was phenomenal. And it makes me want to see more of the Falcon. You don't think you want to see the Falcon in action by himself until you see it, and you're like, holy crap, now I need more.
Right.
It was stunning. It was interesting also to see him as the Falcon and not as Captain America, right? He didn't even have the shield. He was just him, just Falcon being Falcon. And it was beautiful. What did you think?
I was thoroughly impressed.
Yes.
I mean, obviously we knew there was going to be some good action from the trailers leading up to it, but I felt genuinely like I was on a roller coaster. The shots that they got of just the aerial chases and even just the fights when they were just firmly on the plane where they start out. I love Sam peeking through the windshield. And then
you looking like Spider-Man,
yeah. And then the guy sees him, he's like, ah! And then like it was very, very Twilight Zone for sure.
Right.
Or was that Outer Limits? Did I just disown myself as a nerd? I'm sorry, everybody. I quit the show.
Oh man, I gotta go. I'm sorry.
We can't be associated with this anymore. Yeah, no, I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was breathtaking. I love the stuff like when you see Batroc the Leaper saying, we'll get across the border. He won't follow us. And then he looks and Falcon's already in the helicopter. He's like, "What's up?"
What's up?
And I love. So there's a couple things in this first scene that before let's not beat around the bush here. We all know. The end goal of this show is Sam will be Captain America, but he's going to go on a journey to get there. But this scene, this opening scene of the show establishes some things that I think remind us without saying it in our face of why Steve picked Sam. One of the most iconic fights that Steve ever had was in Captain America 2 when he fights Batroc. And it's just like a bare knuckle, he puts down the shield, he takes off his helmet, and they just go at it toe to toe.
Just do it.
And so I think it was a specific choice to say like, hey, first thing out the gate, here's Sam fighting the same guy. Let's see how he does. It gives you something to be like, okay, we can judge him against Steve physically now. And Sam does not have superpowers, but he's good with the wings. He knows what he's doing. He's got Red Wing doing everything on the side. Like he doesn't miss a beat. Yeah. And also we've got his man Torres on the ground giving him updates about like, hey Sam, we're closing in on the border. This is a situation where he's working with the military, and if they cross into they cross a border and go into a certain country's airspace, then it's not going to end well. And so he's telling them like, hey, just kill it, cut it off. We'll take another stab at it later. You got to come back. We can't cross the border. And what does Sam do? He doesn't give up because he could do this all day. And so he
did. You did not.
I did it. I did it.
Good
I'm
God.
not sorry.
Oh no.
Yeah, he nosedives through the helicopter to get the guy back, to get the hostage they're trying to save back.
Epic.
He does not quit. So without Sam saying it, without having to like spell it out for anybody, Sam is like, they illustrate, they show without showing, which is a top rule of storytelling, or not show without showing, but like, show it without saying it, kind of. I can't.
Right. I know what you're saying.
Out the gate. And so that reestablishes who Sam Wilson is, and I love that. And I thought that was brilliant. I love after he is successful, you see Torres on the ground just losing his mind, like, yes, we did it, yes.
Yeah. Like, that's your boy.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm referencing my notes so I can remember everything that happened in the episodes.
There you go.
So we get that. And then something else I thought was cool. Whenever you see Sam in the previous films, it's always either like Sam and Steve or Sam and someone else having like a character moment with each other, or it's Sam in action. Yeah. But what we see here, and obviously this makes sense because it's his show, him and Bucky, but you get to see the quiet moments where it's just him working on Red Wing. And it's like, I think there was the assumption that unless you were Tony Stark, like, or you were like Bruce Banner, who was also a scientific mind, like usually like you just brought your gear to them and said like, hey man, I need this fixed, or Tony was outfitting everybody. But here you see Sam sitting there working on Red Wing.
He's working on his own stuff. He doesn't have anyone else to bring it to now.
He even points out, because I think Torres mentions like, you could just take that to R&D or whoever he mentions, and Sam is like, no, every time I let them do it, everything comes back, the wires crossed in it. So like he knows his tech. He's on it.
Right.
And I love that. It shows you a new aspect of him that wasn't explored before necessarily. What else do we got going on? Oh, Torres has that line where he talks about yo, I heard Steve Rogers was on the moon. Is that true? And here we go. Already getting into the speculation.
Yep. Here's the thing too.
Oh no, you shrink again. The AI, come on,
bro. Come on, man.
Let me adjust the calculations here. Fix the algorithm. There we go. Looks like we're good. Bootleg Stark, let's go. What were you saying? My friend?
Okay, Disney is smart. You talked about this a little bit with WandaVision. Part of the WandaVision experience, they engineered this speculation between with the fandom. That was a part of the overall WandaVision experience. They knew exactly what they were doing by bringing Evan Peters in there. They knew exactly the thoughts that we would think and the theories that we would get to.
100%.
They knew that. And so even though we were all wrong, which I'm actually really glad that we were, it was
keep us on our toes.
It kept us on our toes. It kept Twitter buzzing. It was highly intentional. Extremely. It was part of the overall experience. It wasn't just like zoning out to a TV show. We were talking about it for 6 days out of the week, and then the 7th day we were watching it. So I think that's maybe something that they were kind of doing with Falcon Winter Soldier, or at least alluding to the possibility that we can do this. Don't F with us. Because like the first thing I thought as soon as Torres said that was like, what if this effing show ends and it shows old man Steve in some place on the moon chilling?
Because they did that with Nick Fury in the comics.
They did it with Nick.
They did that with Nick Fury.
And he was in a freaking spaceship at the end of, Spider-Man Far From Home. So I'm like, you know what? They never actually showed Steve die. He's just not there.
Right.
What if, right?
Because and I was talking about this with a friend who promptly informed me that I was reaching when I brought up Nick Fury being on the moon, and that maybe they just did that with Steve, and that maybe he's not necessarily on the moon, but he's on the base with Nick Fury up in space.
He could be. And I'm not saying that he is, but
also
he could be.
But also, we don't know what the public knows about Steve, because for all they know, he never made it out of the events of Endgame.
That's right.
They might think that he died during Endgame. They might think that, we know he returned the Infinity Stones, but then maybe he never came back. Right. And so nobody knows about old man Steve.
Right.
So we don't know what the status is. And that might be why Torres is asking. Or maybe it's just a conspiracy theory and there is like a Steve Rogers grave out there somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't know.
But we don't know.
And I think the fact that we don't see that might be because they are hiding something, like for the show, to be revealed on the show.
Right. Right.
Ray Cameron says, is the bootleg tech Stank Industries? It is as of now. Thank you, Stank Industries. Represent.
Tony Stank in the building.
After that, we go back to Sam says he has to take care of moon stuff, so we go back to what he was getting ready for when the show opened. And it's not a funeral, though there are banners that say farewell, Steve, but it's more of a celebration of who he was as Captain America. And it turns out the reason for that celebration, the reason for this event, is that Sam has decided to donate the shield that Steve gave him to the Smithsonian to have on display as part of the Captain America exhibit and just a piece of history. He points out that the shield is iconic, symbols are iconic, but symbols are only as powerful as the men and women who give them meaning. And he thinks that Steve is what made that shield special. So he has decided to retire the shield, to give it to the Smithsonian, to have it there. And we see a friendly face in the crowd, who I was not expecting, but I thought it was a beautiful way to I don't know that the AI like being called Stank Industries. I apologize to the AI, but we will continue to call it Stank Industries. So go ahead and get yourself back in line. Thank you for that. I was surprised to see Rhodey. Rhodey was there. And he had some powerful things to say, but just his appearance, just being there, little stuff like that, even though who knows if he will continue to be a presence in the show going forward, but just seeing him reminds you that, yes, these are separate films, separate TV shows, separate projects, but this is one story. This is the Marvel story. And I love that. What did you think about what Rhodey had to say, Justin?
I thought it was very, very apt. And I think it was kind of the same thing that a lot of the audience members were thinking. You know, at the end of Endgame, it just alluded to this fact that, okay, just like the comics, okay, we know that Sam's going to reappear as the new Captain America. And instead, we find out that he did the exact opposite. And both Rhodey and later we find out Bucky are thinking the same exact thing. Like, what the F were you doing? Like, Steve wanted you to have this. Why didn't you take up the mantle? And it's so funny when Bucky gets on it because he will not leave it alone. And Rhodey's words are a lot more gentler. More gentle, and a lot more assertive instead of aggressive. But I also found it interesting that Rhodey showed up to this thing. Like I know that both him and Steve served, right? But they almost share next to zero words, except for that one line in Civil War when they're discussing the Accords, and Rhodey calls Steve dangerously arrogant for thinking what he was thinking. But other than that, we don't see that Steve and Rhodey have a close relationship at all necessarily, right? So I feel like Rhodey did not show up for Captain America so much as he did for Sam,
right?
To say what he said, because they were both at the battle at the New Avengers compound. They were all there. Everyone was there to take out Thanos and everyone else to get the so they have this shared history. They have this shared trauma. They were in Wakanda together. They fought Thanos together the first time, right? So
I think
they have a special connection.
There is a special connection there. I think it's a beautiful thing. They're both airmen. I don't know if Sam was enlisted or an officer, but I'm an Air Force vet, and the thing that we always talk about and that we always tell each other, officer, enlisted, whatever, is we're all airmen. So there's a connection there, even if they never served together in the same military unit or the same, ran the same missions or anything. You recognize that uniform, and you recognize other people who served. And so I thought it was there were little moments in Infinity War and Endgame that really hit me hard, because when the snap happens, you see Rhodey, and the first thing he does is he goes looking for Sam. He's like, Sam, you here? You all right?
Yeah.
And I think that there is that commonality there. So they are talking to each other in this scene as two men who have served, talking about a man who served, Captain America. So there is a patriotic streak in them. There is a just that sense of service before self. There is just they are cut from the same cloth in many ways. And so I think that was a powerful choice to have Rhodey be the one who is there to talk to him about turning the shield over into kind
and
of,
highly intentional.
yeah, very intentional for sure. Especially because, and you and I talked about this. Somebody else brought it up. I want to say, I can't remember, but somebody else brought it up. The fact that if this does end with Captain America, Sam Wilson being Captain America, we will essentially, like, I think it would be, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. Imagining an ending to this series where Sam is accepting the mantle of Captain America. He decides, this is me. I am going to be Captain America. And it's just, as he, picks up the shield, puts on the suit, whatever, for the first time in that role, Rhodey is there. And he talks to him like, hey man, Steve is gone. Tony is gone. But the world needs Captain America and Iron Man. And that's you and me. So let's get it. This is us.
Oh,
we lead
gosh.
the Avengers. We lead the Avengers now. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That gives me chills,
dude.
man. Like, I can't.
The world isn't.
Like, I have goosebumps right now.
Bro, the world's not ready for something of that magnitude.
And then,
that's too much greatness.
And then after credits scene, they're walking around the Avengers compound, and the Bifrost opens, and they're like, oh no, what is this? And who comes out? It's Jane Foster, Thor. Oh, God, come on. The Trinity Reborn. Stop it. That's not going to happen. Son. It's not going to happen. I'm sure we will see her get the hammer over the course of Love and Thunder, but that just popped into my head. Chills all the way around.
Stop playing with my heart like that, bro.
Quit playing games with my heart. Welcome to the karaoke hour here on No More Heroes. Anyway.
Or, as we like to call it, No More.
No More. Yeah, man, I love their interaction. And then we get to see Bucky for the first time. He's dealing with his life. We find out that he has been pardoned for everything that he was involved with that wasn't so nice, which I think is fantastic.
So well earned.
He's gone through a lot, and I love that. He talks about everything he went through. There's a lot about this therapy situation that I love, because some of it is played for humor, but it never undercuts the fact that everyone in this universe has been through it, whether you got blipped away or not. Like,
right.
This world has been through it.
And I like seeing. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, by all means, go ahead.
Like, dude, I love the fact that Marvel recognizes that. One of my favorite scenes in Endgame was Steve facilitating this group session with all of these men and women that are just trying to get back to normal during the blip. They're at this point in their lives, their loved ones are gone, and they haven't the slightest clue how to get them back, or if they even can come back. So boom, therapy session. We see WandaVision. They brought everyone back at the end of Endgame, except the people who didn't die because of the snap, like Heimdall, like Gamora, like Black Widow, and of course Vision, right? Yeah. And so that entire series is about Wanda getting through the 5 stages of grief, and Agatha is practically...
That show is therapy.
That show is therapy, and Agatha is practically her counselor, making her go through the memories, making her go through her childhood, and discovering what it is that makes her the Scarlet Witch. And so now we have this show where we actually see physically, tangibly, a counselor and him and Bucky going through it. So
speaking of which, real quick, let me plug Yes Have Some Group Therapy. It's a Facebook group. It's where the Yes Have Some community gets together and talks about all of the amazing shows and all of the things we love connected to the Yes Have Some universe. So go onto Facebook, search for Yes Have Some Group Therapy, and one of the lovely mods will add you. We have one rule: no memes. No more memes. No comma in that.
No more memes.
Otherwise, we'll sick Ryan Dole on you, and he's voracious. But yeah, it's amazing to see Bucky dealing with it, and he spells it out. He says, I went into the ice. You know, what is he fell off that train. Got turned into the Winter Soldier. He's been fighting literally since he joined the army in World War II. And he says, like, I had a little bit of peace in Wakanda.
Yeah.
When they were cleaning him up, they got him a new arm. He was just living his life. He was the White Wolf. And he said, other than that, I have been fighting nonstop my entire life.
Yeah.
And he wears that. He wears that wear and tear and that tiredness. He is weary.
Yeah.
And she tells him, you know, that's you know, he's been pardoned. He's free. And he's like, free to do what? Like, what?
Right.
Who is Bucky? I think that was one of the things, like, we see so much of him as the Winter Soldier and as just the guy who was there to fight alongside the Avengers. He's an ally in battle.
Yeah.
And now, not just us, but Bucky himself has to say, like, who am I? Like, I have a life now. What do I do with it?
Right. What do normal people do? And how do they do it? And, you know.
How do I person in the year of our Lord 2021? Or no, they're 5 years ahead, so 2026 is
right,
it now
they're in the
MCU?
future. I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy. What is he
Ryan
supposed
Dole
to
says
do?
that's a satisfying description of I'm guessing of how he will take down all memes.
Yes, that was pretty good.
So you're welcome for that. You were saying, my friend.
Yeah, no. It's just, like I was just agreeing with you, bro. Like, what in the world is he going to do? What he's supposed to do? Just get a normal day job? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he's no longer a Hydra agent. He was never necessarily an Avenger.
Right.
But he was Steve's closest friend, and now Steve's gone.
Mm-hmm.
All he has left is Sam and his therapist.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, he knew Black Widow for 2 seconds. Guess what? She's dead too. So literally, like, everyone in Bucky's life is just like gone except for Sam, and Sam is calling him, and he's ignoring Sam's calls.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like we see Sam trying to reintegrate himself back into society. Whereas this is what, you know, the Winter Soldier is supposed to be doing, but he is heavily resistant to it because it comes with too many complications that a lot of people can't understand.
Yeah.
It's just rough for him.
Yeah. And we see that he's dealing with his history even outside of therapy. Like he's still having nightmares.
Yeah.
About his time as the Winter Soldier. We see him taking down a target, but then, you know, he's got to eliminate anybody that saw him. And so he has to take out this innocent dude who's just there minding his own business until craziness breaks out.
Right.
And Ray Cameron points out that normal people own beds, Bucky. Well, what part of Bucky is normal to you, man? But also,
no part of it,
you know, Steve and Sam talked about this back in Captain America 2 when Steve's like, it's the bed, right? It's too soft.
Yeah.
You get used to sleeping wherever you need to on the ground underneath a Humvee. You use rocks as your pillow, and suddenly it feels like you're just going to sink into a marshmallow. You could get Bucky. You could be like, Bucky, I bought you this bed. It's literally the best bed in the world. And he would not sleep on it.
He wouldn't sleep on it. There's a reason why when it shows him in his apartment, he has no furniture. Right? No couch, no bed. It's not like he can't afford it or even a blow-up mattress, but we'll
talk about that later. Who knows who can afford what now?
Oh, gosh, right. I can't wait to get into the financial aspect of this. They never talked about this in the films. And I always used to think, okay, what's happening here? All these characters are living at the... Anyway, we're going to get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
But we do see that Bucky is trying. He is trying to put together some semblance of a normal life. As far as we can tell, and so we see him. He has befriended an older Asian man. I feel like you just turned your cap around because, like, in the next scene we're gonna be like, and surprise, Ray Stantz shows up.
By the way, right?
But yeah, no, he has befriended an elderly man who. He's getting into an argument with a dude about his trash can and everything, and they go into a cafe nearby and they're eating some food, and the old man he's not gonna let Bucky catch his breath. He's like, you should ask her out. Without even trying, he facilitates a date between Bucky and the young woman behind the counter, and Bucky's like, I guess I have a date now.
Right. He's just like, what happened? Yeah. It happened so
So
fast.
yeah, but I love the dynamic between them. And like
Yeah.
it's just so funny. Like I love no yes, have some show is safe from Ghostbusters. Ray Cameron is correct on that point. Points to you, sir. And trust me, I'm sure eventually we will do some sort of Ghostbuster centric episode. You can't stop us.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, it's in our DNA.
I am inevitable.
And
Yeah.
we will talk about Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I love the dynamic between them. Of course, somebody as old as Bucky would get along with an old dude because, like,
Yeah,
why wouldn't he?
absolutely.
And I love that they set this date up, and that date eventually ends up being like super low key. Like he just goes back to the cafe as her shift is ending.
Her shift
They
is
play
ending,
Battleship. They have a couple drinks, and they get to talking about the old man and how he lost his son. And Bucky just straight up leaves. Like something about that makes him leave, and we see he goes to visit the old man under the guise of paying him back for lunch that day.
Right.
But
But
what
we
it
know
reveals,
that.
what it reveals is that the innocent guy who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time during the Winter Soldier flashback was that man's son. And it's heartbreaking. You see he's got his little shrine in there to remember him by. And again, man, this is episode 1. Like I'm still recovering from WandaVision today.
Yeah.
And they're going to come at me like this. That was powerful. And again, like you said, this show is not just about examining the smaller heroes, the heroes that haven't gotten, the spotlight yet, haven't gotten their own movie, haven't gotten that kind of stuff. This is about, this is about the smaller moments of the MCU as a whole. It's not just like aliens are here, Thanos is here, Ronan is here, Ultron is here. Like this is like what's happened. Like here's what happens when we're trying to catch our breath, but we still can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Man.
It's powerful.
And it's really powerful. It's and it's well timed. The beautiful thing too about 2020, because good things did come out of 2020. If we really want to, without reaching, we got some great stuff. We look at things like The Boys. We look at things like Watchmen from HBO,
Lovecraft Country,
and Lovecraft Country, which is exactly what I was getting at. These shows have such incredible casting, such powerful, relevant messages, right? Not just for people that look like you and I, black men, minorities, right? But the world, or the nation, rather, I should say that, the nation as a whole. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier is not afraid to take a deep dive into some of the social implications of there being, a black superhero. Asking questions like, is the world really ready for a black Captain America? And of course, there's some revelations with that question as well that we dive into in episode 2. So, I'm really impressed with Marvel. Let me just say that, because this is territory that they haven't really touched in almost any Marvel show, with the exception of Luke Cage, and definitely not any of the films.
Yeah.
So I'm very impressed, right?
I am
that they they're recognizing that this is the reality of what it means to be the Falcon.
And it's something that, and I know people like get down on it because it's like, oh, it's just corporations trying to pander. You know what? Like, this corporation can pander to me if that's what it is, but I have been reading these books for years. I've been loving these characters for years. The stories of these characters don't come from nowhere. The people working on this show are women and people of color. I trust that when they sit down to work on this show, that is a part of what makes it what it is.
Yes.
And so when we have things like, I mean, I know you and I both are huge anime fans. We grew up watching Toonami. It's where we found a lot of the things that we still love to this day. Someone like Tom, who runs the Toonami ship, is an icon to us. So to have a whole spot where Tom gets on and talks about how Black Lives Matter, that's powerful. That means something.
Oh my god.
So to have a show, to have Marvel do stuff that is like, yo, hey, mental health is a real thing. I mean, obviously mental health is a real thing, but like we need to destigmatize mental health. Here are our characters who have been through a lot, who have witnessed death and destruction and have issues. Like, here's them dealing with it because it's real. Right. It's just as real as anybody else's. Here is the story of a black man in a place where he is incredibly visible and he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and people are looking at him saying, are you going to step up and be Captain America? And it's not an easy choice for him. Not because he doesn't think it's that Captain America's bad or that he's not interested. He knows that it means more than just putting on a suit and throwing a shield around. Right. And I love that Marvel is not afraid to tell those stories and to be real about what that would mean if this was like the real situation. It's real unto the Marvel universe, the way that so much feels like so much of the Marvel universe and of comics and even of DC, their best stories a lot of times feel like just a heightened reflection of our own reality. Yes. And just because people have superpowers doesn't mean that struggles with, racism, PTSD, depression, all of these kinds of things, financial stability, it doesn't mean those things don't exist. I love Star Trek, and I love the fact that that is a future where it's kind of a utopia in a lot of ways. But even there, they still deal with racism, bigotry, anger, mental health. Like, these are real things no matter what world you're in. And I love that Marvel is not afraid to address them and take them seriously, even in the context of a world where we have a talking raccoon.
Right.
And,
we absolutely have to go there,
Yeah. And I love that in the next few scenes, we see that come into play in so many ways, because this is where we meet Sam's family. And we get a chance to meet his sister. We find out that their parents aren't around anymore, but they have a strong community. Their family runs a shrimping business. They have a boat that's not in good shape. The sister's struggling to pay for it. We find out that she, along with Sam, was blipped away, like caught up in the snap. Right. And they're struggling. I thought it was really funny when Sam shows up and his nephews roll up and they shout, "Uncle Sam!" And I'm like, of course. Yep. I didn't even like that. Uncle Sam.
I caught that. I was just like, oh no, they didn't. Oh.
And his sister points it out and she's like, yep, Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
But we see she's ready to sell the business, shutter it, sell the boat, try and get what money she can. And Sam doesn't want to do that. He's not having it. Yeah. He's willing to do what he can to try and get the money they need to keep things, no pun intended, but afloat. And they end up going to the bank to try and get a loan. And Sam is fully ready to be like, once they see I'm the Falcon, they'll hook it up.
Right. Like, come on, you know who I am.
But of course, and I know there might be some people who are just like, this is not what that is. People get mistaken for other people all the time. People, forget who somebody is. First of all, this man is an Avenger.
Come on now.
This man is an Avenger. Second of all, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it happens again in the second episode. Ooh. I don't think you can convince me that the bank teller not recognizing Sam was not some casual racism. And it's tough. It's
tough, man.
Because that Sam is it's a truth, man. Sam is in a vulnerable place, like so many people of color, like so many minorities. Sam is in a vulnerable place. His family's in a vulnerable place. His sister is in a vulnerable place. But they especially specifically right now are in a vulnerable place because they're there to ask for money. Their hope of keeping this business afloat is dependent on whether they can get money from the bank. And it doesn't go well. I mean, it starts off and the guy's super buddy, and once he's like, "Oh, you remind me of someone. Did you play for a college team?" Because of course, he must be an athlete. But once he puts it together, like, "Oh, you're the Falcon," and Sam's just like, "Yeah, that's me." They think like, "Oh, cool, we got this in the bag now." Of course, he loves the Avengers. He loves the Falcon, and but he says like, "I can't help you," and he points out like, you don't have any income over the past 5 years, and she's like, "It's hard to have income when you haven't been here. You haven't existed for the past 5 years." And he's like, "Well, you're not the only one, and that makes things tight for everybody." And she again points out, funny how no matter what the situation is, it always seems to tighten around us. And it's a reality check, because not only does it gives us a better frame of reference for the world of the MCU and how that has been affected by everything that's happened, but it also shows us like they did an incredible job in this episode and the next of intertwining the genuine real world problems that we deal with in the real world with the world of the MCU, and how those would just like make everything worse and how it would affect things. What did you think, man?
I thought that, again, the only other show that has really done that to that degree as it pertains to men of color and women of color is Luke Cage. And I don't really have or Iron Fist messed with this idea a little bit, because there's a lot. I know a lot of people were upset back when Finn Jones was cast as the character because it was a white dude. And his only competition was, I believe, someone who was Asian American and like Asian and half Asian, half white. And people were mad when Finn Jones got cast over him, and they were like, "Oh, this is racist. What about Asian representation? Blah 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 blah." But the truth of the matter is that there's really two things to take away from that. One is that it's okay that Iron Fist is white, because he has always been white and blonde, always, since his initial inception. And two, there is a reason for his whiteness, right? And it's because in Kunlun, he was the outcast. He was the outsider. He was the minority. And so when he comes back to New York, sure, he may physically blend in, but he doesn't feel at home at all.
Yeah.
So there is a reason why Iron Fist is white. And I love that Iron Fist plays that up a little bit, both in the comics and in the Netflix show as well. But Luke Cage is a lot more blatant. And with Falcon and Winter Soldier, we see that a lot in episode 1 and even more blatantly in episode 2 with a particularly cringeworthy cop encounter. And oh, man, that just hurt my soul to see that. Because I don't know about you. It's real. I've dealt with that. I've experienced that.
I have experienced something along those lines as well. I dare, I'm not going to say I dare someone, but like it's hard to find somebody, a non-white person, because it could be black, it could be Asian, it could be Native American, it doesn't matter,
right.
Who has not had that kind of encounter, and it is heartbreaking,
right?
But yeah, they don't get the loan, and the guy still has the nerve to ask for a selfie with Sam's arms up like and he's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Just boom! Just would have punched him right in the face. Come on, dude. Ugh.
Then we switch gears for a little bit. We cut back to our friend Torres, who's been working with Sam on these operations with the military. Yeah. And earlier, when they were talking about moon stuff and Steve Rogers being on the moon, they introduced the idea of the Flag Smashers, and that they are a group of people who are anti-nationalist. They don't want any borders. They don't want any, they want like a one world kind of situation. And and they're just doing these random acts of terrorism, basically. We don't really find out much about them other than that they are introduced. And then here we see Torres doing a little bit of covert operations. And he goes into kind of infiltrate them. He goes in undercover. He has a Flag Smashers mask on, which is basically like a black hockey mask with their logo on it. And he's wandering around, and his phone is telling him that he's in the right place. And then an alarm goes off, and 2 giant black duffel bags come flying out of the window. and
Mm.
it is a bank robbery
Yeah.
done via flash mob, and it's insane. And
It's
it's just
so
like
well done.
you hear this whistle, and Torres is like, huh? And then everybody just floods the place. Everyone's wearing a mask, and then out the window comes the bags, followed by this huge dude. He's not Hulk level, but he's a big man.
He's big, man. Yeah.
And he Torres is like, well, he must be the ringleader, and he ditches his mask, pulls out his gun, tries to arrest him, says like, hey man, you're under arrest, this isn't okay. And Torres gets his butt kicked. Torres almost gets his flag smashed. He gets his
wow.
He gets his
I gotta go. I'm sorry.
I apologize. He definitely gets his face smashed though.
Poor guy.
He gets messed up. He did his best. We salute you, Torres.
He's the kindergartner that gets the participation trophy. He's like, you did your best, honey. It's okay.
Dude's got a good heart, but I don't think he knows what he was up against. And you see him later on talking to Sam, saying like, yo, dude, these might be super soldiers.
They might be super soldiers. And they didn't even say it.
They didn't. Everyone knew. Just like, you don't think. And Sam was like, let's not go there. But that conversation is interrupted by the big moment of episode 1. So Sam, when we see Sam donate the shield, it seems like they're really talking about, like he's talking with the people and they're saying, thank you for doing this. It was the right thing. Yeah. We're going to honor Steve's legacy, all this kind of stuff, thinking like, this is it. This is the new permanent home for the shield here in the Smithsonian, where anybody can come through, be inspired about it, learn about Steve, all that kind of stuff.
It did them both dirty, bro.
Sarah comes in. It's Sarah, right? His sister's name's Sarah?
I think so.
Yeah. Sam's sister comes in and informs Sam that there is something he needs to see on the TV. And on the TV, the same people who thanked Sam for doing the right thing by donating the shield to the Smithsonian are on the TV introducing a new Captain America. And I'm going to go ahead and request that the AI switch us over to another scene analysis. We'll go ahead and initiate that. There he is. This is a shot from the second episode, but Mr. John Walker, as he is revealed later.
Johnny.
But there are a couple things. Some of them I didn't catch until my second watch through of the episode, but when they introduce him, the speaker specifically points out that like heroes are great, and by heroes he's absolutely talking about the Avengers, because another thing that we find out in the bank scene is that, and I love how we set this up and then didn't even talk about it when we were talking about the bank scene, but we learned that Avengers don't get paid. It is a volunteer position, and although I don't think that they had this in mind, because I don't think the pandemic was necessarily a thing when they started filming this show, but I'll have to double check that. Maybe it was, but Avengers are essentially frontline workers. Like, these are people who are out there doing the work to protect us, and they're not getting paid. They're not being taken care of. I'm sure Tony did what he could by, I'm sure the headquarters is beautifully outfitted, got everything they need, all that kind of stuff. Who knows what kind of situation he left them financially. But outside of that, Sam points out, like, we get a lot of goodwill from people, donations from, lots of folks who thank us for what we're doing, but there's not really any income associated with it in terms of a paycheck. And this scene where they introduce the new Captain America reinforces that, because he says heroes who make the choice to lay their life on the line. Like, it's a very it's a volunteer situation. But they needed somebody that they could specifically call on to defend this country. So without saying, I feel like they make it clear that this is this is somebody who is very much, don't hate me, I gotta say it, an agent of the U.S. variety. Thank you, everybody. If you loved that one, please let me know in the chat. I will continue to deliver these premium comic book themed dad jokes. You're welcome.
Craig! Get me a replacement. I can't do this, man. No, you're actually...
Don't hate the player, man. Hate the game.
Oh, God.
That's what the cool kids say, right? That's still a thing.
That's what the children are saying if this were 1992.
Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, and literally though, like they say without saying, like we need somebody that we can call on who can do what we want. They want someone that they can control. They want somebody that they will make think like, hey man, you're our guy. You're the big man on top. No, but I don't think John Walker realizes that. We see him come out and he looks at the camera and winks, and people have been saying it in the chat, and I agree. That face is so punchable. And who is it? Somebody pointed out, like, how are you the child of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn and look so goofy?
Oh man, he looked terrible. He looked terrible. And it's kind of this whole idea of like, a few years ago was just a giant fad to hate on the movie Ghostbusters 2. A lot of that stemming from the fact that the only reason people don't like Ghostbusters 2 is because they compare it to Ghostbusters 1. And I kind of feel the same way about John Walker, U.S. agent. Mm-hmm. You can't help but compare him to Chris Evans. You can't help but compare him to Steve Rogers. He was the only other Captain America we got in the MCU. Not
just in the sense like here's the next person stepping into the role, but look at him. Look at him physically.
Yeah. Like, Chris Evans had the perfect physique. He was tall. He was wide enough. He was a super soldier. And this dinky, lanky little buster just comes out of nowhere. Look at me. I'm wearing an outfit. I can carry the shield. Get out of here, bro. Like, I swear to God, I was so angry because I knew he was like, he was like the poster boy for the Sokovia Accords, right? Like, if the only thing the Accords were missing were their own superheroes. They were, they only really dealt with the established Avengers, but they weren't like, oh, Article 1000. We're also going to introduce our own government.
You just brought something up that just popped into my head real quick. I want to address some things in the chat, and then I'm going to tell you what I thought of.
Okay.
What do we got going on over here in the chat? Ray Cameron says. Or no, Ryan Dole, good friend Ryan, asks, do we think the show will get into the politics of U.S. Agent? I mean, how can they not?
Yep.
Like, that's kind of what he's known for. I think they're, of course, with any Marvel project, they're probably going to put their own spin on it and do some unique things. But there's a reason that they brought U.S. Agent into the show. Ray Cameron says, I understood that reference meme. Yo, Ryan is in the chat, Ray. You're playing a dangerous game. He's basically the great value Kurt Russell. Look, man, he's carrying on the Russell family tradition of appearing to be a good guy, but probably not being a good guy in the end. So
right.
Marvel is 2 for 2, and I support that.
Yes.
You just brought something up. The Sokovia Accords did everything short of introducing their own team of superheroes. I mean, those were cooked up and supported by General Thunderbolt Ross. I don't know what they could have called that team.
Boy, I wonder. Jeez. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go there. Like, they didn't even talk about the idea of it. But I think all that has to do with the fact that they know they just effed up the Hulk story in the MCU. They annihilated his periphery. They completely got rid of his number one love interest, which I still haven't forgiven them for.
It's so weird. She just disappeared. Like, I feel like
disappeared.
I feel like the implication is kind of like with Jane for a while, like, oh, she's still around. She's just not around. But yeah, I mean, we haven't seen any of it.
They didn't allude to her. They didn't mention her name once. I mean,
I have a feeling hopefully She-Hulk will start to clear up some stuff. Because I feel like, obviously Jennifer Walters, cousin of Bruce Banner, they're going to have some interactions. So that's down the road. Right. Very much looking forward to it, though.
Yeah, I don't want to tangent off too much about that. But
man, you said tangent. Get out of here.
you know what's up.
We'll plug some stuff at the end of the show. We'll plug. But yeah, man. U.S. agent. I mean, and obviously they don't introduce him as that. They introduce him as the new Captain America. They let Sam publicly do this ceremony where he turned over the shield to the Smithsonian, made it look like this was a conclusion they had both come to, that this is the right way to honor Steve. They let him look like a chump, look like a full chump.
Shows how much the government cares for them, which is one of the points they were trying to allude to in Captain America 2.
Yeah.
Right? Don't just trust the government blindly. Mm-hmm. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't have your best interests. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I like that they're continuing that idea. It's not this, pro-anarchy, insurrections sort of thing, but it's always just like, ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Make the right moves. Tread softly, carefully, prayerfully, whatever it is that you need to do. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, if you put all your eggs in one basket, that basket will fail. The government will fail you. They have failed Sam. They don't care about Sam. They don't care about the Avengers. They care about the same concept as turning War Machine into Iron Patriot, right? Like, what's the real purpose, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And obviously, like, not just that, but it stings doubly for all of the implications we discussed previously. I mean, this is...
Oh, man.
This is no one's going to taint Steve's record. No one's going to taint Steve's, his legend. Right. He's done what he's done. Mm-hmm. But they made an Avenger. They made a hero. They made a black man. They made a person look like a fool. Mm. And like they had to trick the shield away from him.
Right. They couldn't even tell him the truth.
Because here's the thing. If they came to Sam and said, hey, we feel like this is a time when the world really needs Captain America. We feel like blah, blah, blah. We would love for you to be a part of the ceremony because obviously Steve trusted you to hold on to the shield. We would love for you to be there as a sign of goodwill to do an official handoff to this person that we've chosen. Here's his stats. Let us tell you how great he is.
Right.
The fact that either way, whether they didn't trust Sam to do that because they figured Sam wouldn't like the new guy, or they were just like, we don't care about Sam. He's just the Falcon.
Right.
Either way, it's dirty. That's and that's not okay.
It wasn't okay. And also, too, like, Sam wasn't the only one who didn't know about it. Rhodey was there, too. If War Machine didn't know, then they didn't tell anyone.
War Machine didn't know. Bucky didn't know. This was fully just a surprise. Yeah. And I think they knew it had to be that way. That is why there was this covert, like, we're not going to tell Sam that we're just getting the shield from him. And it's like that. Have you ever worked somewhere and they do that thing where they're like switching out all the office equipment and they're like, look, we can't just give it to you. But technically, once it's in the trash, it's trash. And everybody picks through trash. So you're just like, oh, okay. And then you do the thing where you're like, this is still a nice computer. And you go and like touch it to the inside of the dumpster. Then you pull it back out and you like Lysol wipe it. And you're like, I got a new computer. Like that kind of thing. That's what they did. Only in a real fancy way with the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
And, it's
dirty. It's
not okay.
Dirty.
And then we pick up with episode 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second half of the show. This is a double stuffed breakdown of the first 2 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't know if we told you that, but as we like to say here, we're with you till the end of the line. So we pick up and the first thing we see is Mr. John Walker, Captain John Walker, out of uniform in a high school locker room where we realize this is his old high school locker room.
Right.
He's looking at his old locker from when he was a football captain.
Yeah.
And out the gate, he's having a conversation with a buddy of his. And I'm not going to lie. I couldn't. This might not bother anyone else unless you've also served, but like I'm looking at John Walker's sideburns. I'm looking at his friend's haircut. I'm just like, gentlemen, you are out of ranks, but you both far outranked anything I ever achieved. So I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, Hollywood. Yeah.
Hollywood, man. But hey, one thing I will say is that over the past 10 years, they've gotten a lot better at caring about like actually using the right ranks on people. I remember watching the first G.I. Joe movie, not that that was anything to write home about, and and hearing people like call each other their ranks and just looking at their uniforms and being like, that's not correct. But yeah, they have a conversation, and his friend was his name Hoskins,
yes.
who has a great call sign that we learn later on.
Does he though?
Both Hoskins and John's partner, I don't remember if they mentioned that it's his girlfriend or his wife or whoever, but they both are part of this conversation to kind of psych John up because he's about to make his first television appearance on Good Morning America as Captain America. And over the course of this conversation, you realize like John has a lot of accolades. He is a former football captain. He apparently likes to punch his way out of things, which Hoskins alludes to. And he is somebody who has a lot of experience under his belt, a lot of training, a lot of everything. Like he's high speed. He's a high speed soldier. I think he's a soldier. I think he was Army. Because Hoskins is Army. He is a command sergeant major, if I remember correctly, according to his rank. But he, and then obviously, like, he goes out to the field, he puts on the suit, and, this is where we get the scene of him high-fiving the drum major. I'm not going to lie, as much as I hate this dude, that Star Spangled Man remix was
kind of fresh, right?
I was like, like I'm sitting here like, oh, I can't stand this guy. Get that suit off. That's not your shield. And then, Star Spangled Man.
Right?
I'm like, no, stop. But they go through it. He is definitely playing the humble card, but the host calls him out and is like, you're not just anybody. Like, you have, 4 medals of honor. MIT did a study of his body, and you see him throwing that shield around, honestly, on par with Steve and anybody else who's thrown it. Obviously we've seen Sam throw it in the trailers, but we haven't seen him throw it in the context of like we're watching the progress of the MCU yet. We've seen Bucky throw it. He's got a metal arm. He's got the super soldier serum. We've seen Steve throw it. He's a super soldier. I know we've seen Black Widow handle it. I can't remember if she threw it. I definitely don't think she caught it. But this guy is just like not missing a beat, hitting all these targets, bouncing it around. And he, as far as we know, does not have any kind of super soldier serum. He's just a guy. And that is crazy to me.
But here's one thing to remember, and this is something that Howard Stark said in Captain America 1, is that vibranium is the lightest metal on Earth.
See, I forgot that. That.
So you may not need that super strength. Now, it would be freaking nice because if he drops the shield, he's done.
Yeah, right.
Like, U.S. agent literally has nothing else going for him except that shield. So
I think that's what I was thinking about. Because even if the weight of like catching that shield onto your arm isn't going to like take you out, just the fact that like that shield is traveling so fast that if you don't catch it and handle that momentum right, you're
done, dude.
Well, thank you for joining us for 2 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The show is now complete.
But
dude, it's all of the things that in the first episode they establish as what makes Steve special and what makes Sam special, in the sense that like they don't give up, they can do this all day, they will find a way anyway. He does not exhibit those things. He comes off as a nice guy, but at every opportunity, he tries to say the right things. This is a performance. It doesn't mean he hasn't actually earned 4 medals of honor or any of those other things that he's done. He's clearly genuinely throwing that shield around with a lot of skill, but he wants to be Captain America. This is an achievement for him. He thinks this is the next step to being the best.
Yeah.
And he never says that, but he says a lot of things that just don't feel. There's a lot of comfort in knowing that Steve is Steve whether he's in the suit or not. Steve is Steve whether anybody knows his name or not, whether anybody gives him any recognition. And same for Sam too. Like, these are Avengers. They volunteered. Yeah. They're not getting paid, according to this show, to do what they do, but they do it anyway. They wake up every day and say, how can I help somebody? And, you know, he is more than willing to talk about, like, you know what makes me special is I have guts. And that's what allows me to do what I do as a soldier. And hopefully it's what allows me to do what I do as Captain America. And then he's also talking about, like, you know, I'm not Dr. Banner. I'm not Dr. Banner. I'm not Tony Stark. I'm not gadgets. Tony. He's also talking about, like, you know, what I loved about Steve was that he got up every day and he, you know, just wanted to help people. And that's what I want to do. And in that way, man, I've never wanted to punch somebody through a TV so hard. But in that way, he is like a brother to me. Ooh, I didn't like it. And you know who else didn't like it was Bucky, because we see him watching on TV.
His face?
Oof.
He was just like, I might have to go get Zemo to reinstate that conditioning so I can murder this guy. You know, like, I mean, was just, I felt bad for him. And I felt bad thinking too, you know, later on, he maybe we'll get to this point, but later on he told Sam that, you know, he didn't want Steve to be wrong about him because that would meant that Steve was also wrong about me.
Yes.
And I kept thinking to myself, I wonder if he thinks he should just take the shield and just become the new Captain America, because Sam won't take it. And obviously this moron U.S. agent doesn't deserve it. So what's the compromise here?
I think we'll get to it. I have some thoughts on that, but I love where your head's at. But Bucky does take up the issue with Sam, which is what we see next. He goes and he returns Sam's calls in a big way.
Yes.
He has some words with him. He's not happy. This is why Bucky needs a bed, so he can throw it at this dude's face. That's what Ray Cameron says in the chat. I mean,
facts.
According to the therapist, one of Bucky's rules is he can't hurt anybody. So, yeah, I mean, give him a bed. He can throw that at him.
Yeah.
What else, man? Yeah, Bucky talks to him. He's not happy. Bucky is trying to, like, obviously, like, Bucky's dealing with a lot. And a lot of it is not just what he's been through, but also the fact that he's lost his best friend. Not just his best friend of many years, his best friend of 100 years. Like, it's not even... I mean, this friendship has a different weight to it. And I know a lot of people speculate that Bucky might have had some secret feelings for Steve that extend beyond friendship. I don't know. But that thought also, all of it amounts to, like, this is a hole in Bucky's heart.
Absolutely.
And he is letting that out. And I think he has to catch himself because Sam calls him out and says, listen, what you're not going to do with your overextended life is tell me about my rights. And it's a powerful moment because these are allies. Yeah. They haven't necessarily become friends yet, but obviously, like, Sam cares about Bucky. Like, they've been through a lot together. He doesn't not want to be his friend. But I think not only is this Sam saying, like, hey, like, I get that you've been a lot, but there's some respect that needs to be respected here.
Yes.
But also, like, I think Sam respects Bucky enough to be like, hey, we're not going to, like, This is what we're not going to do. I'm going to lay down a boundary. I'm going to, this is where it is. And I think I think Bucky feels that. I think Bucky respects that. It doesn't change that Bucky is upset, and nor should it. Like, this is a separate issue. But I love that moment was there because it is important. But they are going back and forth at each other. And this is where we get, Bucky saying, what's more important. And Sam introduces that he's dealing with the Flag Smashers.
Right.
And Sam says, I think they might be one of the big three. Androids, aliens, and wizards. And Bucky's like, well, you think we're going to fight Gandalf now? And then Sam's like, bro, what you know about Gandalf? And Bucky's just like, I read The Hobbit in 1937 when it came out. And I'm just like, yo, these dudes are both nerds. Come on the show. Come through. Sebastian Stan, please. Anthony Mackie, please be on our show. I think it'd be amazing. You're always welcome here.
Let's do it. That was so good. But their banter. I wasn't expecting their banter to get to those sorts of levels. I was like, oh, it's going to be cute. It's going to be kind of funny. Yeah. But they took their chemistry to the next level.
I was so impressed. I love that. It was just really good. And I love that, like they're arguing and then Bucky's just like, I guess I'm going on this mission now. And they do. It's funny because, there's still... This show is around this moment that I was just like, this show is Lethal Weapon with superheroes, and I adore it.
Exactly.
It's so good.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's funny because it's not like a 1-for-1 copy of Riggs and Murtaugh. And it's that same, it's a buddy cop vibe where one, like, again, you can't compare it to anyone that's come before. It's their own vibe, right. and I love it. And it's a great dynamic between them. Because they are both very brash in some ways. They're both very like headstrong in some ways. They both bring their own level of intensity. And it's funny because like Sam keeps pointing out like, you got a staring problem, man. You just stare at everything. But they go to drop in on this place where they're trying to corner the Flag Smashers. Sam obviously has wings on his suit, so he's able to get in pretty easily. Bucky is looking for a parachute, which he doesn't have. And because they were not counting on it. And so he's like, fine, I don't need one anyway. And he just jumps.
It's a very Steve thing to do.
It is a very Steve thing to do. It's but again, like when we saw Steve do it, well, we saw him do it a couple times. He did it in First Avenger as well, but it was
we never saw him land.
Yeah.
Which is a big difference. We saw the whole fall.
Yeah. And so did Sam. He recorded it with Red Wing.
Oh my gosh. It was like he counted on that,
But this is where they catch up to the Flag Smashers. They try to be stealthy. They're disagreeing about everything. Bucky's ready to go in at every turn and just beat everybody up. Sam is like, well, thanks to my technology that I know how to use, I can tell you there's far more than 2 people over on the other side of that wall. And if they're all superhero or they're all super soldiers, we're screwed. But the Flag Smashers load up. Sam and Bucky think they might have a hostage. They take off after the trucks. Bucky catches up, gets into one of the trucks. I was worried because I was like, there's still another truck behind him. And that truck can see Bucky. And they are probably calling the front truck and saying like, hey, there's an Avenger hanging off the back of the truck right now. But it doesn't look like anything's happening. No one's leaning out to shoot. And at first I'm just like, that seems like a weird oversight. Like, you want me to buy that nobody cares? And then he gets in there and I'm just like, oh, wait a second. Yeah. Maybe they don't care for a reason. And go ahead, talk to him, Justin. What happens?
Well, someone gets knocked the F out. Let me just say that. Our our lovely hostage is not a hostage. Our lovely hostage is one of the Flag Smashers and smashes Bucky into the truck behind him that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then this wonderful fight ensues with Falcon making fun of Bucky for getting whooped on by this beautiful young lady. His insults, I mean, mid-battle, his insults are just pricelessly timed. Um, things are going. I don't know if I would say things kind of went south for them, but a certain man with a punchable face comes in to try to save the day with his utterly useless partner. And they also get their butts whooped, which just brought so much joy to my soul.
Oh my goodness.
Those two morons being John effing Walker, having fun with the shield. I mean, you play Marvel versus Capcom, and freaking Captain America has that shield splash, which is like his projectile move where he just throws the shield. That's literally all John Walker did. Here, take that. Boom, take that. Boom, take that. And the second he loses the shield, one punch and he's gone.
Yep.
He's out of the fight. That's when I thought to myself, great. He's absolutely useless. He didn't go through the Power Broker program. He didn't go through the Super Soldier program. He literally has no powers. He's just a guy in a very cool outfit. He did use the shield to save his partner, which was cool. Hoskins was there.
And that was their big moment of celebration because he does it, and then they're both like, "Yeah, we did a thing."
Yeah, something successful, and then boom.
Yeah, and they build it up too because he's hanging off the back of the truck. He knows the bad guys are up there. He's like, "This is it. I don't have the shield. It's just me. I'm Captain America." And he gets up there, and 2 seconds later, boom! Like no.
You just had a chance.
Yeah,
Captain
no
Failure.
Chance.
That's who you are. Congratulations.
Oh man.
And it was really, really good. And then of course the following sequence is just
we get that
another
that iconic. Let's go ahead and get another transition. Courtesy of the AI. Thank you. Stand by. There it is. Thank you, AI. Thank you for functioning.
Stink.
But we get the walk home as we saw in the trailers.
Yes.
You better be careful calling it stink. You know it's going to lock up on us again. Yeah, Battlestar. We find out we see them walking home, and they are picking on each other, and they're both playing into it because Sam asks what his cyborg brain is doing, and Bucky says something about like it's computing and processing and everything, and then Sam's like, I can see it, the gears are turning, they're malfunctioning, and but as they're walking home, they run into John and Hoskins, who a walk of shame. They run into Hoskins and Walker, who are in the back of a truck, and they completely ignore them. Walker says something clever, thinking like, "Oh, they'll think I'm cool now. They want to be my friend," and they just ignore him. And then he's like, "Okay, catch up to him." And he basically tells him like, "Come on, the walk to the airport's 20 miles back. Like, just hop in the truck. We'll give you a ride." And as they're talking, you can tell that Walker, he's being polite to them.
Yes.
But he is wearing the mantle of Captain America as if it comes with the respect, as if it comes with the weight and the like, as if he's earned it.
Right.
He has not earned it. He has been handed it. Yeah. And Bucky says, just because you have the shield does not make you Captain America.
Absolutely.
And then again, we get confirmation, like, how did you find us? And Hoskins says, we tracked you because Red Wing is technically government, technology. And then Walker says it wasn't hard to track because government. So a reminder, he is an agent of the U.S.
Of the U.S.
government.
Yeah.
And it's just a really contentious conversation. And you can tell that both of them are, Sam's kind of like, I'm going to sit back and just like try to absorb what's going on, try to absorb like, do I trust this man or not? All that kind of stuff. And he, they get to the airport, or no, they don't get to the airport.
They don't even get to the airport.
They don't even make it. somebody asked what his name is, what Hoskins' name is, and he's like, Battlestar. And Bucky's just like, Battlestar, I'm done. I'm getting out of this car. Stop the car.
He gets out of the car. He wasn't bluffing. He was like, stop the car. He gets out and walks off without Sam, without any of them. He's just like, I'm done. And that's exactly how I felt when I was like, okay. Because we look at Marvel Comics, Battlestar is a real character. Hoskins is a real superhero. And he went through the Power Broker program, and he has history with John Walker. They're basically their own iteration of Steve and Bucky.
Right.
But come on, like this is bad because they're just depowered. They're literally like, what's the word? Like figureheads? I don't know what you would call them.
They are figureheads or like I don't know. That's a good enough word for sure.
Yeah.
But they're not. Yeah, they're a mess. And you can tell that they are just like disappointed in the conversation when it's over. Yeah. And on the way back, that you see Bucky and Sam on the plane, and Bucky's just like, we should do it. We should take the shield. We should break in and take it. And he's like, you remember the last time we took it? How Sharon is an enemy of the state now, and Steve got arrested? It's not going to end well.
Yeah.
And then, Bucky says, well, if we're not going to take the shield, there's someone I need you to meet.
Now we get into the good stuff, bro.
We cut to Baltimore, Maryland. Sam and Bucky arrive in Baltimore, Maryland, and we get a little bit of humor as they're walking down the street to this house in this neighborhood. There's a couple kids sitting on the corner just hanging out playing. Little kid goes, "Yo, it's Black Falcon!" And Sam's just like, "What? I'm guessing I'm Black Falcon because I'm the Falcon and I'm black." He's like, yeah. And he's like, I'm not Black Falcon. It's just the Falcon. He's like, that's not what my dad said. He said you were Black Falcon. He's like, oh. Well, does that make you Black Kid? And the other kid starts busting up. So he's like, I got him, didn't I?
Got him. That was so funny.
Man, first of all, I was born in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So immediately I'm just like, oh, yeah, I know that place. And then when I joined the Air Force and went to tech school, my tech school was right outside of Baltimore. And then on top of that, like, you know, kids like that and those kind of interactions like that reminds me so much of my family and my extended family. And it just, something about this scene just immediately, I was like, this feels kind of like home.
Yeah.
And then they get up to the house and they knock, and a young man answers the door and is not interested in letting them in or interacting. And Bucky says, tell your grandfather I'm the guy he met in Korea at the bar, or something along those lines. And he's like, go ahead and tell him. He'll know who you're talking about. And so he does. And Sam is still just kind of like, I don't know why we're here. I don't know what this is all about. And he comes back and he opens the door and they go inside. And we are introduced to Isaiah. First of all, legendary actor Carl Lumbly putting in work in this role. He does not have a lot of screen time. I'm sure we'll see more of him.
Oh yeah, he'll come back.
But the power this man exudes, like you feel the story waiting to be told in his eyes. Like with every word he speaks, it's dripping. But like you see him and you're like, please tell me more, sir. You haven't told me anything yet. But please tell me more. But we get this backstory that he and Bucky have met before. And when he was the Winter Soldier, Isaiah, who is this elderly black man, you're looking at him, you can see he's got kind of some cataracts in his eyes. He's got the wrinkles going on. His hair is gray. It's tight on his face the first time you see him. In fact, AI, go ahead and transition to another scene analysis. Thank you. There he is. Whew.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting. You're like, who is this guy? Like, what's this all about? And you hear that he was sent in to fight Bucky, and he tore his arm off. And he's amused to see that it grew back. And you're just like, what? And then
Oh my gosh.
Bucky is like, Isaiah, I'm here to talk to you because there are more like you and me out there. And he's like you and me? Like you and me? And man, this
Dude.
I want to be able to like tell you everything he says, but I don't even feel like I can communicate like the intensity. If you are not watching this show, people, please go watch this show. And if you are a comic book nerd and you have read the book that this comes from, you know the weight that this carries. If you have not read it and you read comic books, please, at your earliest convenience, support your local comic shop. Pull up, get a copy of Truth, Red, White, and Black. We
easily one of the best Captain America stories I've ever read.
Easily. I got chills. He lays out that he was experimented on. He spent 30 years in jail. Oh man.
Yeah.
When you learn who he is, like both of us read comics. I know you literally, like, when they said we need to go see Isaiah, you need to meet Isaiah, you paused the episode and like sent me a message like, I'm here, it's happening. I can't even. And I know when I was watching it, it's a powerful scene. And he gets real upset. He picks up, it looks like a box of Altoids or something, and he throws it. And this is when you realize this man is a super soldier, because he throws this little tin box and it gets buried, lodged in the wall of his house. And then
Sam is like,
who are you? And he very forcefully and powerfully tells them to get out of his home. And his grandson, he'll Marvel.
They know what they're doing, bro. Come on, man.
Escorts them out, and Sam is very obviously like upset that he was not informed. He is enraged that he was not informed that there was a black super soldier. He was not told. Bucky reveals that he never told Steve. And before they even have time to process it, before they even have time, well, I mean, Bucky knows, but like before Sam even has time to let this sink in, the cops roll up.
Here come the 5-0, yep.
Cops roll up. They want to know if Sam is bothering Bucky. They do not recognize them. They ask for ID. Sam doesn't have his ID. Doesn't understand why he needs to show his ID. Because he doesn't need to show his ID. He shouldn't have to. He is walking and talking with a friend. They are having a discussion. It's heated. There are no blows. Nothing bad is happening.
At all. They're literally talking in the middle of the street. That's it.
And what sucks too is, somebody must have called the cops on them, because when they roll up, like, it doesn't look like there are any like cops in the area.
Right.
And it takes the cop's partner whispering in the guy's ear, like, hey, I think those are Avengers. Like, that's the Falcon and that's Bucky. And again, Sam is not recognized, but as soon as someone reminds the person of who he is, then it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were the Avengers. It's like, it shouldn't matter that he's an Avenger. Are you only letting him off because he's an Avenger? Could this have been another random dude and he'd be in the back of a car now?
Right. Or worse, if we're really talking reality.
Yes.
And
this is why I am impressed and pleased with Marvel at this moment, because they are not afraid to tell these important stories, because this is real. This is real. And superheroes are not real, but the people, the emotions, the characters, it's worth it to make them feel real. It's worth it for these stories to be reflective of the period of time they're being told in. And I think it's a bonus that the blip just happened to sync up the blip and coming back from the blip. There's a lot of parallels between that and what we're going through with the pandemic and COVID-19 and all that kind of stuff.
Man.
And
Absolutely, yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah, that was a powerful scene.
It's a powerful moment.
It's an extremely powerful scene. And I hope that, we get a little bit more. We get a little bit more of that, right? Because we got into a point where now we kind of realize that maybe this is something that maybe Bucky and Steve haven't really ever considered, right? But this is Sam's reality because of his age, because of his skin tone, because of where he was born.
Yeah.
This is his reality. It doesn't have to be everyone's reality. It doesn't be everyone else's reality, but this is his. And when Bucky quickly discovers like what's going on, he's just as disappointed as Sam is. He's like, "Come on, guys, like really?" So,
and he tries. He tries to play the. And here's the thing: I am excited. This show has levels. This show has little intimate moments. You are seeing Bucky grow for Bucky's sake. You are seeing Sam grow for Sam's sake. You are seeing all of these characters develop. But as Bucky and Sam get tangled up in all this together, the Flag Smashers and everything else, you are going to see them grow for each other's sake. Because that's what's going to... I mean, we know there's that scene in the trailer where they're both throwing the shield around and they lock arms and they have that look of like, we got this. Like, you and me, we're brothers.
Got this. Yeah.
And it's because of moments like this, because you're going to have little moments where Bucky tries to tell Sam what to do and Sam is just like, you're not going to tell me what to do with my rights. And then you're going to have moments where they're in a situation like this and Bucky is just like, just show him your ID. And he's like, I don't have my ID and I don't need to show them my ID. And those are the moments where Bucky is going to recognize like, yeah, this is not something that I ever had to deal with or that Steve ever had to deal with. But this is a reality for Sam. And hopefully by the end of the show, like it seems like they're going to become good friends and becoming a good friend and a good ally, not just a superhero ally, but a, somebody who recognizes who Sam is and what he goes through.
Absolutely.
This is going to be some growth for Bucky too. And I am very much looking forward to that. But yeah, man, super powerful. Like I had chills. And of course, like that's not the end of it, because even after all is said and done and they realize that Sam's not a problem and technically Bucky's not a problem, they have to arrest Bucky because even though he's been pardoned, missing his therapy appointment to help Sam with that mission was a violation of his pardon, kind of like parole. And he was placed under arrest. Like parole. And so we cut to another infamous scene from the trailer. I love that throughout all of this, like most of what we saw in the trailer seems to be in these first couple of episodes. Now, this is only 6 episodes long, but I love that it seems like there is a really good chunk of unseen stuff waiting in the next 4 episodes. I'm really pumped about that.
Yeah. I hate that there's only 4 episodes left, but that means they have a really, really good story to tell because they know exactly how long it's going to take to tell it. And that's a major sign of really good storytelling. I mean, even great shows and great film franchises, they know not only when to end, but how to end. Yeah. That's why you could have an amazingly long show like The Sopranos, but have the worst ending ever. Because they didn't think about it. They weren't planning about it. They were like, this show is going to last forever. And then when it ends, it's the most disappointing thing in the world. You got to know how and when a show and a franchise needs to end. So I'm really excited for the next 4 episodes as well.
Yeah. And from this, we cut to Sam is there to get Bucky out of jail. The therapist shows up. They meet. And then, of course, John Walker shows up. Talks about how he pulled some strings. Bucky doesn't have to go to therapy anymore. And the therapist is like, look, if you're going to get up in here and try to like mess with this, throw off what I think is best for Bucky, then I'm at least going to have one more session with him real quick. And it's going to involve Sam and Bucky. This scene was, again, entertaining, but powerful. Justin, what'd you think about it?
I just thought that it was everything that we needed in that exact moment. The second, okay, first of all, let me just say the entire second episode. The entire second episode, just as a whole, all the scenes we've talked about up till this point, and the last couple of ones, unexpected, spectacular, necessary, absolutely necessary. And I personally think that each episode is going to go deeper in those regards. Now, for this particular scene, it said a lot for me, right? Because we keep going back and forth between this this realistic kind of like with the whole Isaiah scene, where these two different people from two different worlds, kind of like this Luke Cage Iron Fist kind of thing, are experiencing each other's periphery and each other's worlds, because they don't know about each other's worlds. So we keep going from that to this buddy cop thing, you know, this Riggs Murtaugh thing, this Lethal Weapon thing that we see in the following scene, when they lock their legs together and they're just staring at each other, and they got to do what they got to do in order to get Bucky out of jail. The soul gazing, yeah. And then of course, it wasn't Sam who did that. Oh, it wasn't even Bucky's counselor. It was Mr. Punch You in the Face. You know, and battle chump.
Battle chump.
Battle chump. That's what I'm calling him now. Battle chump. And it's cool because that was that entire scene where him getting out of jail, and then we have the very hilarious, well, heartbreaking and hilarious scene with the counselor. It leads directly to meeting Battlestar and you know, U.S. Agent Outside, which leads directly to the ending.
Yeah.
Where are we allowed to say who
we're talking about? We can go there.
Okay.
We can go there.
Baron Zemo.
Yep. Because as Bucky alludes to after the conversation with Isaiah, he might be the only one that they can go to fully understand what is going on.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's about super soldiers, and, you know, he is somebody who, I mean, we saw him hunting down remaining Hydra members and all these other people. Like, he knows who's who and where they are and how it all fits together. He is a mastermind. And it's definitely set up that, like, we're about to, everything in this show, everything that happens, it feels like, oh, I just learned something new. I just learned another thing. So I'm very excited. I mean, even that therapy session when they're doing the soul gazing and it's a staring contest, and then they finally, man, did somebody mention Stank again? This thing is
it's getting janky.
It's
Stank's getting jank.
Man, why you got to play us like that? AI, let's go.
What AI?
But yeah. Anyway, they have that moment where Bucky says, "Sam picked you," or Steve picked you. If Zemo had the same cell number as Princess Leia. Thank you, Ryan.
Really?
May the Force be with you.
Nothing Disney.
Does that mean Sebastian Stan's about to break in and be like, "I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you"?
Oh my gosh! As an allusion to him being Luke in the new series. You know what? Disney, man. And it's funny too because as soon as they bought like Lucasfilm, they the momentum that they had, the audacity. I was watching Runaways, and almost every episode of Runaways shows something Star Warsy. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it was the main character Alex at home playing Star Wars Battlefront in his home, or you know, Spider-Man building his Death Star Lego with Ned. You know, it's like Disney can't help but brag that they own Star Wars in any capacity. It's annoying. Anyway.
But yeah, they have that powerful moment where Bucky is just like, "Look, Sam picked you, and he trusted you, and you gave it up. Like you threw it away. Maybe Steve was wrong about you, and if Steve was wrong about you, maybe he was wrong about me." Mm-hmm. And God, This
I hated that because that
Marvel
was
Marvel pulls no punches.
they weren't playing around.
Except for Hawkeye. Hawkeye pulls punches, but then Scarlet Witch will call him out on it, so it's fine.
Woo!
The deep cuts!
Yikes! You were pulling your punches. Ouch, Wanda. I love their relationship, by the way.
But yeah.
Yeah.
And then, they immediately go out and encounter Cap and Battlestar again, who
Battle Chump.
officially Battle Chump from here on out, who try to appeal to them, get them to team up, saying it'll be better if we work together. What does he say? Was this in the last scene or was this in the Jeep scene? I think it was in the Jeep scene when he says it'd be great if I had Captain America's wingman with me. And he's like, it's always that
always that last line. Yep.
Because
and then
here's the thing.
When Sam walks out.
Steve was Captain America, but there was not a day that he thought like, I'm the leader and you're all my wingmen or my,
sidekicks or subordinates.
They were all equals. They all made the choice, regardless of who they are or where they came from, to be there and be Avengers.
Yeah.
And John Walker does not have that level of respect for Sam or Bucky.
Yeah. Maybe he does for Battle Chump, but not for these two people that he doesn't know.
Yeah. And Sam tries to be civil about it. And he says, like, you work for the government. We are more freelance. It'll be a little easier for us to get in and get out, blah, blah, blah. And like not necessarily get in trouble for not following orders or something. And the conversation just like boils over and it ultimately ends with Walker kind of being like, hey, if you're not going to work with me, then stay the hell out of my way. And you really see that division. And I think this is, actually that just about covers the episode. We talked about that. And then they allude to, we're going to go see Zemo. And then we get a glimpse of him in his cell. So now that we've broken down the proceedings, let's go ahead and get another standby, and we will transition into our final segment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hot Wash, a little bit of an after-action report. This is where we give our own thoughts. We will speculate on some speculations and talk about what we think is to come. I have a feeling that Walker is going to hate that he's not getting respect from Bucky and Sam from the Avengers for lack of, having everybody else there. Like, these are the representatives of the Avengers and they are not having him as Captain America. But on paper, he feels like he's checked all the boxes to be Captain America. I feel like this is a guy who has maybe not been handed everything, but he feels like he's done everything he was supposed to do. He's done everything he was taught to do. He's done everything to please everybody, to get where he needs to be who he wants to be. And now he's there. He's Captain America, and the people who knew him best do not accept it.
Right.
I don't think that's going to sit well with him. I don't think he's going to continue to be friendly.
Oh, he won't. And that is alluded to at the end of this episode. He doesn't want to be friendly, or he's exhausted his friendly resources. Basically, he's done.
Yeah.
And he realizes he can't lead people that don't want to follow him. In predicament too, because I hope they shed a little bit of light and backstory on his conversation with the people that came to him and said, we want you to be the new Captain America. For what? What does this include? Does this mean I'm getting the super soldier serum? What is it exactly that I'm supposed to be doing? Am I getting my own team of Avengers? Like a lot of questions that just weren't answered or anything like that. So I hope they dive into that. But I also hope that he begins to realize that, you know what? I'm not Captain America, And I think that's when he might start to unravel and potentially even directly, obnoxiously oppose Bucky and whoever, and maybe end up, cutting a side deal with the Flag Smashers to get the super soldier serum for himself and actually become right? Captain America, because
Yeah.
in the comic books he does have super strength and he does have those abilities. He becomes a member of the West Coast Avengers of Tony Stark's Force Works. Like
He goes through some character development in the comics for sure.
he has a mad dial. Yeah, yeah, he's got a catalog for sure. And right now he's just this dinky little
Yeah.
dork with his dinky little dork sidekick doing nothing but carrying the shield. And like Bucky said, bro, that means nothing
But here's
if you don't know the gravity behind it.
the thing, and this is not to diminish Sam, but physically, there's no difference between John Walker and Sam Wilson. But what is the difference between? Well, okay, obviously there's strength-wise though. Although
strength-wise, yeah.
And so
I would agree.
That's what I meant, strength-wise. But what is the difference other than the obvious difference? It's the heart.
Right.
It's the attitude, it's the spirit. And I think Sam is going on a journey to understand that, all of the reasons that you thought maybe I shouldn't pick this shield up because of how I will be perceived, how I will be judged, how I will be, will the respect come with it? All of that kind of stuff is valid. Those are things we're thinking about.
Yeah.
But Sam is going to have to get to a point, hopefully, where he understands that those things can't change. But the spirit, the heart that makes Captain America is what is inside of him. And it's his, I'm hoping he accepts that it's going to, like, that heart is going to be what hopefully leads us into a situation where we can. The world's not ready for a black Captain America, but that is exactly what makes it ready for a black Captain America.
Right.
And Sam, I think this will be a story of Sam getting to that point where he realizes that the world not being ready is exactly when it is the most ready.
Right.
And he is going to have to, again, with every superhero story is about taking a leap of faith. And this is going to be Sam's leap of faith. And it's going to be a big leap, but he's got wings. I'm excited for it.
No doubt. No doubt.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you got any more expectations? Any more speculations? Any more things you want to see happen? Things you think are coming down the pipe in this show? I mean, I'm thinking
the Flag Smashers don't even seem that villainous. What were you saying? What were you?
I think you cut out for a second. What were you saying about the Flag Smashers?
Oh, I was just saying that honestly, they don't even look that villainous right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are reuniting to potentially prevent or hold back a bigger threat. I'm still, I guess I'm trying to figure out who the main villain of the show is, right? With WandaVision, we didn't know till the very end. With this, it could be John. It could be the Flag Smashers, right? It could be Batroc returning, or it could be Zemo. And but right now, I kind of feel like he's just kind of in this Hannibal Lecter kind of role. I think the trailers did show him walking free at some point, so we'll see him in his full glory, right? But I think the next episode will see Zemo. I do think somehow that will drag in Sharon back into the fray. So I think she will be reintroduced in episode 3. I think that we're going to see obviously more fights with the Flag Smashers, and to be honest, I have no idea where they're going with this show. It's really difficult for me to speculate because the first 2 episodes shocked me, and I really love that because I didn't know where they were going, and where they went I didn't expect. So I kind of feel the same way with episode 3. It's going to be really interesting to see Sam, who's had very little interaction with Zemo, and Bucky, who's had a lot of interaction with Zemo, confront him and stuff like that. And I know there's going to be a lot of fear and a lot of trauma response and just these really deep-seated things that
Yeah.
Zemo is really gonna. I mean, because Zemo could laugh in his cell all he wants, all the live long day, because like Thanos, he said he was gonna do something and he accomplished that task.
He
So
did.
he's one of the few bad guys who won,
He
and
disassembled the Avengers.
it's exactly what he did. And it took half the universe to die for the Avengers to be like, oh, maybe we should do this again. Maybe we should
For
get the
them
band
to
back together.
assemble.
For them to freaking assemble. Um, absolutely, man. It took two Thanoses, okay? Two Thanos. And
Two Thanoses in 5 years.
and 5 years and 10 Infinity Stones, my friend. It took
Mm-hmm.
all of that to undo what Zemo did. He won. He didn't just win, he really won. So it'll be really interesting to see, them confront that and, see where they go. But nothing but good things for the rest of the episodes. There's only 4 left, and an hour each is not long enough. But
yeah, man,
the quality is so good that
the quality is good.
man,
I mean, you and I talked before the show started, before we watched the first episode, and we kind of like, based off some interviews and based off our own speculation, we kind of had a feeling like, man, they could bring in some of the stuff from Truth, from Red, White, and Black.
yeah,
But I wasn't expecting it in like the second episode. I was thinking like, okay, we'll get to like the penultimate episode, the 5th episode.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Sam
Yeah.
will learn the secret legacy, and then that will like, no, they were just second episode, man. And then going back into talking about Isaiah Bradley, his grandson who answers the door, Mr.
Yeah.
And we don't hear his name, but
Yeah.
if I were a betting man, and welcome to another segment called Comic Bookies, where we place bets on things. If I were a betting man, I would very much put money on that young man's name being Elijah Bradley.
Absolutely.
Who, let's think about this now. In WandaVision, we met
Billy and Tommy.
Billy and Tommy, Wiccan and Speed,
Those are 2.
the Young Avengers.
Yep.
2.
It's 2 of them.
We know for a fact that the Hawkeye television series will be introducing Kate Bishop.
That's 3.
That's 3. We know for a fact that they just cast a slightly higher profile actress to portray Cassie Lang in Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania.
That's
4. Wait, who's the villain? The villain? Why can't I talk? My mom taught me English. Who's the villain in Quantumania? Oh, it's Kang. Kang the Conqueror, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's 5.
That's 5.
And Mr. Elijah Bradley, grandson of Isaiah Bradley, also known as Patriot. That's 6.
That's 6. Oh, and
Man.
by the way, guess who got cast a few months ago in Doctor Strange 2? America Chavez, the leader
7.
of the Young Avengers. That's
The Young
7.
Avengers. They are coming. The
They're
Young
coming.
Avengers are coming.
They're coming.
It is not even something that can be hidden anymore.
Yeah.
And I could not be more excited about it. Like Marvel is playing some like 4D chess right now, and I'm here for it. I could not be more excited.
Yeah.
And that's not, I mean, like, we haven't even talked about all the other, like, they have been champions and Avengers and all these other stuff, but like, that's not even mentioning characters like Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. She's got her own show. She's going to be in Captain Marvel 2.
Right.
Riri Williams going to have an Ironheart TV show.
Yeah.
Man, like, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Excellent stuff coming up, man.
There's,
Excellent
like,
stuff coming up.
Me from high school. I remember when I was in high school, there was a girl I had a crush on, and this is back in the MySpace days.
Oh dear.
And does anyone remember how on MySpace you used to have those like profile quizzes where you'd fill them out and it'd tell people about yourself, and then you'd put them on there and people could look at it and see your answers and everything? I remember one time she had filled out a MySpace quiz and it asked her, "What do you think of Batman?" And I remember her reply was like, "Ew, Batman? He's dumb," or "That's stupid," or something like that. And I remember just like having this feeling of like, but I really like Batman. I think comic books are cool. I think superheroes are cool. And now we live in an era where I guarantee you there is a squad of cheerleaders at some high school whose big cheer that they do during the varsity football games is about like, go home team. We're going to snap the opponent away like Thanos. Because nobody doesn't know who Thanos is or what it means to like wear an infinity gauntlet. And that, my friends, is progress.
For guys like us, oh my gosh. For
the world, for anybody, men, women, everybody. Like, if you appreciate comics, if you appreciate excellent storytelling, if you appreciate everything that Marvel is, everything that DC is, everything that anime is, everything that not Marvel or DC Comics is, Invincible. The first 3 episodes dropped on Amazon. If you want to watch a quality show, if you want to learn more about a quality story, quality comic book, go watch Invincible. I mean, like, I haven't seen it yet, but I've read some of the books. I'm about to watch it once we're done here. I couldn't be more excited to be alive right now. Like,
man,
we're surrounded by quality storytelling, and we're seeing the heroes and the characters and the worlds that we grew up with, that our parents grew up with, that our grandparents grew up with. Technology is at a place right now where like you can, like, everything looks real. I believe that Anthony Mackie in his portrayal of the Falcon put on the Falcon suit and just flew around. That's how it works. They stuck a GoPro on him. You know how they shot those scenes? Somebody else also had a Falcon suit.
There it is. There it is.
Oh, man. It's a beautiful thing, man. I could not be more excited to watch more of this show.
It's a beautiful era.
I could not be more excited to be doing this with you, my friend. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Yeah.
Absolutely, dude. I would not, there's no one I'd rather do it with. Because we have these 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long conversations on the phone anyway.
Yeah, we do.
And so it's like we should have done this, a year ago, but here we are. So
hey, man, better late than never.
Better late than never. The first time I heard that phrase was on Ghostbusters 2.
What?
First time I ever heard that phrase.
I was 2 years old when it came out, so that's probably true for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You got anything else to add? Anything else you want to mention? Talk about? Let's plug our stuff, man. You go first.
So the stuff that I'm working on, and I'll make it pretty quick. I am the host of Super Tangent Podcast since 2017. It is a pop culture politics podcast where I talk about video games and anime and Marvel and DC and Ghostbusters and Gundam and all the things that helped raise me to become the man that I am today, that I take a delight in. I usually talk about the sociology and the psychology of the storylines and the characters and the plots, and just try to take a deeper dive into the things that I love and express deeply how much I love and hate certain things and fandoms and all sorts of things. So check me out. It's Super Tangent. I'm on Stitcher. I'm on Spotify. I'm on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, and I'm on Google Podcasts. And I'm also the co-host of Geeking Out Loud, and you can find this on YouTube and on Facebook, which is another pop culture podcast where we take little short episodes and just discuss, here's the nerd news of the week. And so Geeking Out Loud, that's another one I'm a part of. And as far as podcast related things go, that's kind of where I'm at. So John, why don't you hit? And also John, last year I think you wrote a guest blog for Super Tangent, which was delightful. It's still there and it's still relevant. Supertangentpod.com is the website where you can read all the blogs and listen to all the episodes. So those are my plugs. John, what do you got?
I mean, you guys know me. I'm always hanging out around Yes Have Some Group Therapy. You can find us both there. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at JohnYourCaba4, like the number 4. You can find me posting all of my latest artwork, talking about what I'm up to, showing updates on projects, all of those kinds of things. I am a regular guest on Yes Have Some podcast. We just talked about the Snyder Cut yesterday. Love hanging out with those guys too. What else do I do? I think that's it. The world just keeps me chained to my desk. I am on Twitch. Ryan Dole is in the comments talking about my Twitch channel. I am on Twitch. Now that I haven't done it in a hot minute, I love to go on there on Saturday nights and just like get in there, go live, work on some artwork. Now that I've got Streamlabs up and running, I think the stream is turning out beautiful. I might have to start that up again. We'll see what happens. No promises, so don't go hunting for me on Twitch. But if I do decide to go live again, if I can get that up and running, you will definitely be able to find me on there, and I will let everybody know when it happens. Looks like you're shrinking again, my friend. Looks like Stank Technologies. Yeah, I said stank. You heard me, AI. Looks like it's doing its best to hold us together, but I think we've reached the end of our run time this weekend. So on behalf of myself, on behalf of Justin, thank you for joining us for the inaugural live episode of No More Heroes. And we're excited to see you next week for episode 3 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Absolutely.
Until then, we're with you till the end of the line.
With you to the end of the line.
All right. Take it easy, everybody. Have a good night.
Goodbye.